that's our 6 practices quickly. Zora, anything you think we missed in the overview of the 6?
No, nothing's leaping to mind. You know, I'll just say from on this last point, Kamran, as a volunteer mediator, you know, kind of talking to the parties, you know, a few months later and kind of checking in with them, you know, it really does add to that sense of closure, I think, for everyone. You know, sometimes it's positive and you hear, you know, one party has moved on, they've got a job now, they're settling down into their post-mediation life and, and they're happy and they're moving on. Or in the case, you know, where you're calling and, you know, the dispute hasn't really been resolved, but to hear from the parties, you know, they seem more calm and they're telling you, yeah, you know, we did everything we could, we tried, and, you know, but just hearing in their voice that, you know, they've at least the emotional elements or the pain of the process of feeling the dispute has lessened somewhat, and they're kind of moving on even if everything isn't fully resolved. But so there's a sense of closure, even additional closure, if that's possible, for both the parties and for the volunteer mediator. So
I'll tell you, I was recently in Houston and happened upon someone who said to me at one of our jamakanas, at one of our community centers, said to me, you know, I was a party to a case and I was treated pretty badly by my business partner who stole a whole lot of money from me. And ultimately it came to mediation and we mediated for a while, but we weren't able to reach a resolution. And so I'll tell you, by way of background for folks listening, we're pretty good at resolution rates. They're right in line with everything else that we hear in practice. They're right in the 70 percentile, 80 percentile range. But so he said to me, you know, my case happens to be one in which there wasn't a resolution, and I've come to a place of saying shukr, which is an Urdu, an Arabic word meaning thanks. He's expressing a gratitude. And I thought it was so profound to be in a position where someone has so wronged you, has taken so much from you, such that your livelihood is gone and you've had to start over. And the signs of, as we was talking, economic struggle were there, right? Like it was very real that this was about putting food on the table. And yet he'd come to a place of real forgiveness and moving forward. And I thought, I am so grateful that we were at least able to play a small part in that healing process.
Yeah. That's great.
All right, Shafiq Hamani, I think that's everything that we planned to present. We're happy to take questions or just continue talking, or we can call it a night, whatever you like. You may be on mute, so we perhaps can't hear you. See if I can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go.
Excellent. That was a wonderful presentation, and if anybody has any questions for our presenters.
I'm curious to know how many times with the parties, how many sessions do you have?
Sorry, would you mind, Shafiq, repeating the question? It's far from the microphone, so it's hard to hear.
The question from Larissa is how many times you meet with the parties, and on an average, how many times do you meet with the parties to resolve a dispute?
Okay, so I still had a hard time hearing, and I'm sorry for that. Shafiq, can you put your face right up into the camera and tell me? There we go, thank you.
I can reiterate, I'm coming into the camera now too. My coworker is asking about what's the average amount of sessions that you have?
I'm getting so old. Okay.
Oh,
the average
amount of sessions you have with parties.
Aha, the average amount of sessions that we have over the 6 months. There we go. Okay.
We have a funny setup here, so.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I can tell that you're kneeling. Thank you. I'm sorry for your knees.
Oh, no, no
worries. It's tough to say what that average is. In general, there's kind of this bulk of activity that happens right when a case comes in. And so you'll have individual sessions, you'll have a joint session. That joint session may run a full day or even a couple of days. And then there'll be some time that lapses as folks calm down and they reality test. I'd say on average over the 6 months, both joint and individual, you're looking at 6 to 8 sessions. Sora, what do you think? Fair?
Yeah, probably as an average. I have had a wide range. I have had cases where we've had to have multiple, particularly interregional, where we're dealing with time zones and we're having to have individual sessions, and then I've had some that were in person that were done in one setting. So I've really run the gamut. So I'm not going to have a very helpful answer for you here.
Yeah. I will say that, it's exactly what Sora just said. Like, there is truth. The data shows us that when everybody's in the same physical place, we get stuff done, right? And so for that reason, on our commercial dispute side, so by the way, our mix is about half and half. Half family disputes, which are vast majority marital disputes, sometimes like husband, wife, mother-in-law, but like marital, and the other half commercial. And in those commercial disputes, which tend to be either business partner or like service provider and then the client, in that context, we do have a practice of recommending a one-day full-on joint session to just knock stuff out. So we'll have a couple of individual sessions as prep, and then we'll say to the parties, look, there is a point where you just need to hammer this out. And so we're going to block a day together, and we're all going to come together on a Saturday or Sunday, and we're just going to work it out. Bring your best effort, and let's see what we can do. So that tends to short circuit a little bit over there.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Is that kind of similar to what you guys do? I'm interested to know.
No, and I'm speaking from the Center for Conflict Resolution. We do a one-time session. Rarely do we have multiple sessions. That's actually, I wish we had more sessions personally. I think like, hearing what you're talking about, the way that you reality test by giving it some time to test it out, is really, I'm thinking of the mediations I've done recently and how much it would have benefited from that. So we do just a one-time session when we do them in the office. We also do them in the court, in a court setting, and those are super short. Those are less than an hour. They're really, really short. So we try and like you said, just bang it out as quickly as possible, but in a really short amount of time. Yeah. Generally, it's one session. Sometimes we'll do a second session, but it's very rare.
Yeah. I made this statement to someone recently at one of these forums that CCR and ACR helped sponsor in Chicago. And so I was at one of them across the country and said, we reality test by living it. And an academic, like a professor, walked up to me later and said, that's actually how community mediation started. Like that, it's not a unique practice unto you. It was the norm. And as we've become court annexed, we've moved away from it, which was really helpful historical information for me.
It seems like one thing that community could lend is that flexibility, right? Like we're not beholden to sort of another, like the courts or something like that. If it is community mediation, it does seem logical, but it, I guess.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the things we have to balance though is like party endurance. Right, like we gotta get people to stick with the process and keep on going. And there are some of our colleagues that are so skilled at just getting people to never give up and try something else. But sometimes you gotta give them a little break for a little while and come back to it. So that's my experience, at least. I feel like that's the biggest challenge. What do you think?
Yeah, I do, and I think having more than one session, I think just gives that opportunity for the healing that we've been talking about. So if you have kind of the initial phase of really the sharing of their story and that exploration, and then having those opportunities to infuse that empathy during that part, then I find the productivity of the next phase really is enhanced because you've kind of moved them on. So from just my personal experience and for what I've seen, that does work really well, having it broken out.
Anybody else? So Kamran and Zora, on behalf of ACR-Chicago, thank you so much for, Christina, is that you? Right, I thought somebody tried to speak. So on behalf of ACR-Chicago, thank you so much for sharing your framework with us tonight. And special thanks to CCR for hosting our party, which will start right after this event. We got food here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
You too.